Hey guys, hope that everyone's having a great day. Thought I'd pop in today to answer a great question that somebody had for me this morning. And the question is, am I doing enough, and how do I know if I'm doing enough? So this is actually part of the question of the conversation we were having recently about guilt and about the pressure and about self-doubt that we talked about recently. It actually has a tie with that, the idea of am I doing enough? So the first question that you need to think of if you're considering am I doing enough is, what are you comparing yourself to? Do you need to be comparing yourself to that? So as homeschoolers, I think generally we compare ourselves to what the public school system is supposedly doing, where we think that they are doing, and what the expectations have been set aside for kids in specific grades based on the curriculum guidelines set out by the government. So that is kind of what we generally compare ourselves to, and I think that that's not really a fair comparison for us, because what looks good on paper for a government issued curriculum is not necessarily what each child reaches at in a public school setting. And I also think that it's not fair to us because the things that happen in a classroom don't necessarily equal to the exact same as what it looks like on paper. Okay, so for example, lots of teachers have said, in a schoolroom we consider it a win if we get through 75% of the textbook. And so for us to go and see these really high standards of what is expected at each age range is a little unfair to ourselves. So the first thing I would get you to do is think about, why am I comparing myself to the school system? Why am I feeling the need to compare myself to this? Is it because I'm not trusting that I'm doing it right? And honestly, I think is most of the time it's that we are afraid of failing. And this is the guilt thing that we talked about the other day. We're afraid that we're not going to let we're going to let our kids down. So instead of thinking about, am I doing enough? Here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about having clear, specific goals for the year and then evaluate if you're moving towards them. So get rid of the comparison to the school system and think about your personal goals with your child. So if our goal this year is that we will learn about space, and this is what our curriculum plan is, what is our goal for the year? What is our objective for this year? And are we moving towards that objective? Are we moving towards that goal? If we are, we're doing okay. If we're not, we need to step back and evaluate and see how things need to change, or if our goals need to change, or what needs to happen so that we are actually successfully moving in a direction that we want to. Now, there's this great blog post, and I think I'm going to share it as soon as I remember when I get back to my desk, written by a teacher, I believe, who became a homeschooler, and she evaluated how much time is actually spent learning in a public school setting. She stripped down all the extras that happen at school, so the lining up, all the assemblies and sports days and things like that, all the different transitions between classes. It was a really, really great blog post, and one that I love. And you know what she discovered after calculating it all down? There's about 52 minutes in a day of direct learning in school. 52 minutes. So if you're struggling and you only get through an hour of school with your kids every day, guess what? You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Because, quality is more important than quantity. So if the learning that you're doing at home is quality thing, so you put away the phone, you put away all the distractions that you have, because I know I'm guilty. If I get my phone anywhere near me and the kids are doing school and it's taking longer than I'd like, I happen to just pick up the phone for a minute and check out something, and then I'm not focused on my kids. But if I intentionally focus on my kids, so I make eye contact, I have conversations, I engage their interest, I read the thing that we're supposed to be reading, I encourage them and talk them through the lesson plan. If I am quality education, they're going to remember more, they're going to learn more than if I just kind of let them do it. Okay, so if you're concerned about doing enough, remember, quality is more important than quantity. Enough is kind of subjective because it kind of makes you question whether there's a actual guideline. So here we go. Here's a couple of things related to that topic of guilt, pressure, and self-doubt that I talked about recently. couple of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 things. The first one is quality. We talked about that. Quality over quantity. Make sure that what you're doing is quality instead of just filler fluff. And if you get rid of the filler fluff, then you're going to be enjoying it a lot more. And it'll feel like you're getting it into there, into the brain a little bit more, okay? The second one is trust. Trust that what you're doing is right. Trust that you've made the right decisions, and trust that you are moving towards the goals that you have. So make a decision to be trusting that the process is working. It doesn't look like school, it doesn't feel like school, but trust that you're doing okay. The next one is to have a clear plan or clear goal for the year. So if that means that you need to write down in your plan, have a planner that tells you exactly what you've completed. Doesn't matter if math takes 5 minutes today or if math takes 2 hours today. Yeah, ideally we'd all like it to be a lot more succinct and a lot more focused than the hour and a half of trying to convince kids to do math. But there are days where the kids need to do that because they are struggling and or it's not clear to them, or they're just not engaged today. So some days it's going to be more than others, but that happens. But if you have a specific plan for what's going to happen and you can see that you're making progress towards that plan or that the goals that you've set for this year, that is a good indication that you are doing enough. The next is to get rid of the should. I talked about this on guilt day. Don't should on yourself. Stop having these expectations of what it should be like. So I should be doing 4 hours of school every day. I should be doing 6 subjects of school every day. My kids should be reading for 3 hours a day. My kids should be doing, I should be doing, we should get rid of that. No should. There is no should, because each child, each homeschool, each family, each curriculum, each choice that you make as a homeschooler is completely personalized and independent, and there's no should. I don't care who tells you that there should be something. Get rid of the shoulds. Think about your family and what is working for you. So that's number 4. And the last one that I would tell you is to talk to your kids. Kids are insanely insightful if we take the time to ask their opinion and experience. Instead of us just coming up with the plan, we really, really need to have our kids engaged in the process. We can talk to them about what is working and what's not working. If they are personally not feeling challenged, or they think they can do better, or they're not enjoying what they're doing, they will tell you. They'll explain it to you. Kids are very verbal if you give them the opportunity to share with you what their personal opinions are about things. Ask them what they would like to do more if you don't feel like it's being engaging enough into them. Honestly, one of the coolest things I did was when I know I've talked a bit about the period of struggle we had between trying to change from how we were doing school to what was going to become our new school plan. I took my kids out one at a time, and I sat down with a notebook and I said, tell me what you wish school looked like. How do you learn best? And instead of me just observing everything, because, as parents, we kind of are pretty good with observing, but sometimes it's harder for us to be able to take what we observe and implement it, because we still are struggling with our own personal biases about how things, or our personal desires for things even. So sometimes it's hard for us to necessarily find the right fit. But if we talk with our kids, we can get their insight too. So it was really cool to be confirmed with my kids on their perspectives of what they can do to learn best, and they can do to be able to be successful, and what interests them the most. So if we engage with our kids, they will tell us if they're not being challenged or they find things too hard. You need to just understand that enough shouldn't be a word that you worry about. Let's add the only should. You should not worry. Now, if you just let your whole day go by and you don't do anything ever, that's a little bit different. Okay, even unschoolers completely engage with their kids. Their kids are actively pursuing education by just being curious and inviting and excited about life. Okay, that's different than just nothing. If we don't inspire curiosity and learning in our kids, then that's where we've not done enough. If we're actively encouraging a love of learning, then we're doing exactly what we need to do, and you are doing enough. So hopefully that's good. I just want to say one more thing. I'm going to tell you. So in the period of time where we had a lot of rough years, where I was still struggling to figure out how to make this all work, and I had kids fighting with me about things, there were a period of time where we didn't really do anything. And it sounds terrible in retrospect, but honestly at the time that was survival method, and we just had to kind of drop everything and go to the very minimal. We did like nothing, like maybe math with a struggle. And I felt a lot of guilt about that over the years because I feel like I kind of failed my kids as I was struggling to survive with all the challenges we were having and personalities and things. But you know what? Here I am. It's a couple of years later with a new approach to homeschooling and a personalized plan with my kids that we worked on together, and I get their feedback, and I stopped trying to do my version of homeschool and I started doing what they needed instead, and it's coming much further. But you know what? My kids learned. They're really smart, and honestly they may have gaps in some things, but that's, kids even who go to school have gaps in things. But you know what the best part is? They learn and they observe and they absorb. They're little sponges. It doesn't matter whether they're 3, 5, 12, or 15. They do absorb and they do learn, especially if things are interesting to them. So in that period of time where I may not have actively been planning out a curriculum and planning out a plan for the year, my kids still managed to learn things. In fact, for example, my 5-year-old yesterday was giving me a very long lecture about why why we shouldn't get close to the sun, because we would turn to ashes and that would be a really bad thing. And don't think we've had a lesson about the sun, but she's picked that up on her own through conversations and watching videos such as the Magic School Bus and all those kinds of things. So I want to encourage you that don't worry about not doing enough. Just engage in conversation. Just set goals for yourself and trust that what you're doing is going to be great. All right? You got this.